Okay, guys, welcome to Becoming an Entrepreneur with Tamania. I am accompanied by Khan. So if you see Khan messaging you in the chat and trying to help you guys out or just participating within the workshop, that's who that is. Just a reminder that this workshop is being recorded. So you guys can check out the recording if you or your friends missed some of this workshop, and you can find that on the DECA Conference's website. So without wasting any more time here, Tamania, let's get things rolling.
All right, thank you so much. I'm gonna just share my screen with you all. One sec. Okay, I hope everyone can see it, and I'll just, get right in. All right, so welcome to Becoming an Entrepreneur. I'm very, very excited to be here with all of you and, share some of my wisdom with all of you, and hopefully you guys can take something away from this. And what I was thinking is that if you have any sort of comments or questions, to write them in the comment section, and maybe I'll address them like right away, or maybe I'll look at them at the end of the presentation, depending on what the question is. So yeah, let's move right into this then. All right, so a little bit about me. I went to St. Joseph's Secondary High School. I was part of the SHSM program, and that's, for the business kids. And I knew kind of at an earlier, like around grade 10, I knew that I was, going to pursue business versus, anything in the sciences. So that's sort of like my journey throughout high school. I was part of Junior Achievement. I don't know if any of you know what that is, but it's this extracurricular program, and it's like students coming together from all across, the city, and they just come and start a venture. So it was the first sort of experience that I had in entrepreneurship, and it was very valuable. And I think that's sort of what got me into it and pursuing it now. I went to the University of Waterloo. I was in the accounting and financial management program, and that was I just graduated actually a couple days ago was my ceremony, and so that was exciting. And yeah, now in terms of the business that I started, it's called 8 Stories of Modesty, and I'm kind of excited to share with you all what that's all about. Okay. For some reason, it's not letting me press next. Okay. So how it all began for me, I've been wearing the headscarf since I was 9 years old. And so it really played into the decision that, I wanted to start a business sort of around this. And so in 2018, I went on a trip with a bunch of strangers to Guatemala, and one of them started up her own business. And so she was from, she did a psychology major, and so I was like, okay, I'm in business. I want to do this. So why haven't I started anything? And that sort of pushed me to start my business in university. Whereas sort of in my mind, I was like, I'm going to focus on school, and then maybe if I start a business, it'll be after. But I would definitely recommend to do it in university, and I'll obviously share why I think that is. And in terms of like just personal goals, I wanted to start a business by the time I was 21, just at least have one or just something. And I started with aspects that I enjoyed the most. So, for example, I created the logo or the name or the vision and mission and things like that. It just got me to picture the entire business coming together. And that's sort of it was just a random day, and I was like, okay, sitting with my siblings in a room and just sort of hashing out ideas, and it started coming together. And I was like, okay, I can see this becoming real. And one thing led to another, and I sort of created what is now called 8 Stories of Modesty. Let me just play this for you. Oh, I don't know why it's not playing. But anyways, we are basically a hijab brand, and we aim to enlighten individuals about the experiences of Muslim women who wear the headscarf. And so we do this by combining our products. So each of one of our scarves, there's 8 in a collection, and they come with a unique story attributed to those specific products. So when our customers buy it, it's a little bit more of a meaningful journey. We wanted to sort of create like a community, so to have everybody, feel like they can relate to one another. If you're feeling alone, if you wear the headscarf and you don't really know, you want some guidance, or you want to see what others are experiencing wearing their headscarf, it was for that. And also for people who weren't Muslim or didn't wear the headscarf, it was sort of just to get them to have an idea about what Muslim women who do wear the hijab go through. And I think there was 2 things that I was really thinking about when starting it. One was the misrepresentation of Muslim women in the media, as being backwards or oppressed. So I wanted to bring stories to sort of combat that. And then the second one was the lack of representation that Muslim women had. And those are two things that I was sort of looking at when starting my business. So let's move into, you know, what about you guys? Are you confident, ambitious? Are you a problem solver? Are you creative? Do you see these qualities inside of yourself? Because a combination of them will sort of determine, if you were fit for entrepreneurship or if you're naturally, sort of going towards being an entrepreneur. So yeah, it definitely does. You have to be decisive and willing to take risks and be self-assured in those risks. But you also have to have a vision. You also have to be a dreamer of some sorts. And again, looking at the world in an opportunistic lens, that's very important because, do you see problems and then you sort of just sit there and grieve about it? Or are you sort of like is your mindset sort of moving forward with it, moving forward and finding out what the solutions are? And then creativity is also very, very important. Knowing your skills and your talents and using those to leverage it in a business. And they say that an entrepreneur or a CEO, they're like the jack of all trades. So you're sort of average at everything that you do, which makes you really good at a lot of things at once. And so you have to be able to use your talents and use your creativity to build yourself a business. And just like that, do you value, which is the next slide, do you value things like flexibility, autonomy, challenges, discipline? So those are all things that, come with the life of an entrepreneur, you could say, right? I personally, I like working, on my own terms with my own schedule. I like to change sceneries. So maybe a 9 to 5 isn't meant for me because I don't like being in an office and knowing where I'll be the next day. And so with entrepreneurship, of course, you get to do all of that. It is definitely a lot harder because then you're working longer hours and you're spending more time, but I think it's more fulfilling in that sense. Just because when I'm working on something that I like doing, it's just so much easier and I can keep going. And the most important part is discipline. If you don't have it, I know you're all in high school. That's okay. Like we all develop it eventually. But this makes or breaks whether you're successful or not. Like you can have two people, you can compare them and be like, they all have the same values and qualities. And let's say they're clones of each other, but one has discipline and one doesn't. The one that has discipline will succeed versus the one that doesn't will definitely struggle a lot more. So think about those things when you go into your own journey of maybe becoming an entrepreneur. And yeah, so where to begin? Where can you all begin if in your own business or in your own like ideas? And so I would say the first thing that you need to focus on is purpose. So why do you want to innovate or create what you are doing? Who is it helping? And really focusing on that in the beginning is so important. So a lot of the times companies are just sort of in business and then they do corporate social responsibility, but really starting a business based on the purpose and having that story from the get-go is so much more powerful. And so when I started my own business, it was like I had these ideas and things that I wanted to tackle, and I was like, okay, this is who I want to help. This is the impact I want to make, and then that became the foundation of my own business, and it actually got a lot of people interested in it because of that reason. You want to definitely hone in on that purpose and why you're doing what you're doing. Of course, also seek out things that make you uncomfortable. So obviously talk to that person on the bus. We're usually on our phones, we're looking down, have an uncomfortable conversation. Share a conversation with the waitress or somebody who's serving you at a patio, anything, right? You want to step out of your comfort zone. You want to be open to rejection. You want to do those things so that you can prepare yourself in the future if you ever do start a business to be comfortable with uncomfortableness, because that you will experience a lot of those moments as an entrepreneur. And again, be honest with yourself and what you are passionate about. Don't start a business or something with, like an idea that you don't really care as much about. It's sort of like a side project. You're not really invested in it, because it'll show. And when you're pitching to investors and things like that, when you bring your passion into your own idea, a lot of people just automatically become interested in it. Like for example, when I pitched my business, it was just a lot. There's a big audience. Like, I don't know who was sitting in the audience, and it was a lot of different types of people, and they all found it interesting because I was so interested in it, and so that intrigued them. And it's like, oh, okay, so why is she so interested in her idea? Let's find out, and that sort of gets people to want to learn more about you and your business and what you're doing. And of course, the key piece of the puzzle is empathy, because again, that relates back to the purpose, right? Why it's actually focused now a lot in design theory. And for example, if you're a computer science student, or if you want to go into engineering, and if you're just a business student and you're innovating and creating, this piece is now really focused on, and there's courses that are taught just for empathy. Because, for example, if you're in computer science, you can create so much, and you can just release random things that you create on a whim, right? Like, you can release so many products or applications, but really, who is it helping? What kind of impact will it have in society, right? You have to think of the consequences and really hone in on people and the way that it will impact, and the impact that you want to make through it. So definitely the key piece is to think from everyone's perspective. There's life-centered design, human-centered design. You want to think about those things, and obviously bring in empathy in all of it. And of course, now let's say you have your purpose, you have an idea, you have your passion, you found what you're passionate about. Now I would suggest looking for a co-founder. This is so important because I started my business on my own. I didn't really look for co-founders, or I didn't create a team. It was just me working on it on my own, and it's a lot of work. And you want to have people that you can share values with, and who have skills that you quite necessarily probably just don't have, right? So I love this saying by Guy Kawasaki, and it's like, people love the notion of the sole innovator, but this notion is wrong. Successful companies are usually started and become successful with the contributions of at least two people: yin and yang, maker and seller, dreamer and pragmatist. After the fact, people may recognize one founder as the innovator, but it takes a team to make a new venture work. And I think the more you go into entrepreneurship and starting your own ideas and formulating that, you will realize the value of a team. It is just so important. One person cannot do it all. And it's so true. If you want to scale, if you see a vision for your business and you want to make it big, it has to be more than one person working on it. And here's, I think I've attached a link. I'll just open that. It's this article. So if you want to look into, how to find a co-founder, the sort of values that you should look for, the things that should align, and things like that, it's a good article to look into. It's called How to Find a Co-founder. And yeah, so I'll continue here. All right. And so how do you do that? This is so important. Networking is definitely one of the most important things you could do at university, and take time to do that. I remember in first year, I would go to these networking sessions, but I would hear a lot of students, or just even my own peers, say, what's the point? It's not like they're going to remember us. There's so many students. Why would they remember us? But you have to think from their perspective too. These are human resource professionals. Their job is to remember you. Their job is to come into these networking events and remember you. So what you need to focus on is having authentic and genuine conversations with them. Maybe not talk about just, school or what their work is like. Talk about sports, talk about things you relate on, talk about their day. You want to have these conversations that they can remember you by. And not just, just networking events. You want to obviously find friends or your peers, these people that you will connect with in the future moving forward. So important. Sometimes they will become your biggest ally in your business. They will become your co-founders. They will become people you look to for resources. So definitely don't discount your friends and your peers. And I don't know if any of you have made LinkedIn, but that's what you have to do. Make LinkedIn and post your the smallest achievements on there. Like, hey, I just got my high school diploma. I just graduated. Keep it updated with the little accomplishments that you have. Like, hey, I did this podcast. Check it out. I think this will be a helpful article for anybody going through this or whatever, right? You want to keep your LinkedIn updated, and you want to keep connecting, because that is going to bring your credibility. And even if you don't pursue entrepreneurship, just in terms of finding a job or applying, they're going nowadays, it's like, okay, link us to your LinkedIn, or send us the link to your LinkedIn, we're going to look through it. So you have to build up your LinkedIn, and if you don't have one, I would definitely say get on that. Do not Definitely, one piece of advice is that, go into university looking to make networks, looking to make those genuine connections. don't waste your time and don't do that, and not do that. All right. And so sometimes, people are thinking like, okay, so how do I approach like a recruiter or how to approach somebody to talk to them? So maybe take a picture of this slide. It's like the perfect first email. And I, in fact, found this on LinkedIn myself. It was from a recruiter of 15 plus years, and she gave this advice that this is what she looks at. And it's sort of what she reads and what she will reply to and consider serious in a sense, right? A lot of people are sending emails to recruiters all the time. So if you want a format, this is the format to do it and approach these recruiters. I'll give you like 2 more seconds to take a picture of that if you need to. And yeah, I have my contact information at the end. So if you want any of the links or the resources that I've listed here in this presentation, then feel free to reach out. Okay, so with that being said, let's take 10 minutes to network with the peers that you're here with today at DECA. And, there'll be 10 students per room. 1 minute to make an impression is basically what you'll have. And so tell them about where you go to high school and something that you want them to remember about you. Just do that quickly and I'll maybe drop it into the rooms and I'll hand it over to Keaton.
For that, 10 seems like a lot, so I'm gonna lower the breakout rooms just a tad
Okay.
for you guys. So we'll do 6 or 7 per room.
And I hope you all took the time to, even just a small chat is good enough and learn about each other. That was the purpose of the breakout room. So yeah, now let's say you have your idea, you have what you're passionate about, you have people that are also, interested in the idea and becoming that team with you. What's next? Research. This is probably one of the most important things. You want to be able to quantify the problem you are solving. What is the scale of the problem? How many people is it impacting? Why is it important? This has to be done from the get-go before you invest a lot of time and effort and money. You have to do your research because the last thing you want to do is solve a problem that's very surface level, or maybe not really get into the root or the history of the problem. And let's say you want to start a business, you want it to be really like $1 billion idea or $1 million idea or a really big thing. It has to be done with a lot of research. And so obviously with that being said, I don't want to just say do your research, but here are a bunch of resources I'm going to list in the next slide that you can have access to when you're in university or college, and they're free. So let me just click hello. There we go. Okay, so I said resources you can't ignore. And that is the university or the college that you choose to go to. The resources there are immense. And in terms of funding, in terms of coaches and professors and upper years who are willing to help you out, there are so many people that want you to succeed. And I had no clue until the ending of third year or the beginning of fourth year when I did launch my business. That's when I started looking into these resources. And I'm like, I actually had no idea that this was all available to me, and the support that I received was so great. And so I would definitely urge you all, if you have an idea, if you have something you're looking to do in when you get to university or even in high school, like there's a lot that you can do within high school yourself if you're not in grade 12 already and thinking about, the future. If you're in high school, there are teachers and people there that want to help you, and there's also a lot of funding opportunities. So for example, a lot of the times, the library is a great resources for you from your school or whichever school you choose to go to. And there's things like ABI Inform. So it's complete comprehensive business database containing thousands of journals. Statista, if you want, market research, if you want stats to prove something, that's where you would go. IBIS World, which is also market research related. The Economist, Factiva, which is one that I use in a lot of my own research because it gives you a lot of credible articles and journals to look through and do your research. And these are all extremely great resources that you want to take advantage of and use to your to however you please, whether it's in your business or whether it's in just school or your courses. Definitely take advantage of that. And another thing is that when you think of taking electives, right, that is your whatever program you take, you will have mandatory courses, but the electives are your way of sort of working on your own strengths and weaknesses and your own discovering your own passions, right? I took a lot of courses because I'm like, I want to be in entrepreneurship. So I took a lot of the BET courses, which were associated to, social entrepreneurship or marketing or starting a venture, or those are the things that helped me start my own and gain the skills and knowledge that I need to continue on in with my business. And so I took those as for fun, right? Like instead of choosing bird courses, I focused on what I needed to work on and I took courses according to that. So take advantage of like the opportunities to you and take advantage of those electives. And even in high school, you want to be taking random electives to explore what you want to do and be honest with yourself. Like, what is it that you actually have fun doing? Because university takes it's a combination of two things. It's talent and it's hard work. So you have to be sort of naturally gifted towards what you're doing and you have to put in the hard work, and that's how you will be very successful in university.
So,
Um,
Tamania, there's a nice question here that relates to what you were just talking about. Samra asks, do you think volunteering with these sort of resources help with experience?
Volunteering with these resources.
Yes, it's in the chat.
1 second, let me take a look. Mm. Maybe can they elaborate on their question? What does it mean volunteering with these resources?
Samra, if you just want to put in the chat your explanation, or you can turn on your microphone or camera.
These resources are there to help you do the research that you need for your business or for anything really. They have, because you want to prove, when you're proving an argument, you have to bring in the quantifiable numbers, and that's what it will help you get. So these are just sort of the links that you would do to that. If I click this, it will take you a lot of the market research. And so these are all things that usually you have to pay for. But when you look through your school, it's for free. I'm pretty sure a lot of universities have something that they compile. This is the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Guide, and it makes it so much easier.
Okay, Tamania, let's just move on.
Okay. So now that you have your research, another thing to look at is the history or the root cause and the failure analysis, which is really, really important, right? When you're looking at the history, you want to go as far back as 100 years into the problem. That sometimes changes your own ideas, right? Because when you find out where the problem started, what is the root cause, it helps you to build a solution based on that. And failure analysis is also something very important because you want to see why no one else has addressed the problem or even tried to solve it themselves, or why can't they see it, right? And how come you are able to see it? So it's like an opportunity that you get, and that sort of like gap that you're sort of covering with your business that gives you that competitive advantage. And that's why they would a lot of professors have recommended focusing on failure analysis, which is looking at your competitors, and not just competitors, but people in different industries that could reflect why this problem hasn't been looked into further. And this one is very important. Get comfortable with failure. I'm sure all of you sort of recognize the faces that I've been chosen to include, and it's like they're all entrepreneurs. They've all experienced a great deal of hardship and challenges and failures before they experience a lot of the success. And me in first year, this is like I left high school and I was thinking, I'm like, I was sitting like you guys in a presentation, and the speaker was like, "You will fail." She just said that, like, "You will fail," and I was like, "There's no way. If I work hard and if I like put all my efforts in, there's no way I could fail." But it is so not like that. I actually, during my time in university, probably failed about 3 courses, and it's not about failing, but it's about learning from that failure and really pushing yourself to keep going and keep being determined on what the bigger picture is, what goals you have for yourself and where do you see yourself, and sort of look at that and sort of persevere through all the failure. Because and again, this goes back to being in uncomfortable situations, right? Like going up, even in that breakout room, there was a lot of silence that I saw. So being uncomfortable and being the first one to speak, it can really build great skills within yourself. So get comfortable with that, get comfortable with rejection. Just a piece of advice. So let's move on to pitching, right? Because that is also very important. Now that you have your idea, now that you have your research, you want to be able to show investors or people that are willing to fund you. Ooh, there's no question. Willing to fund you, that why is your idea so important and why should it be addressed? So let me just take a look here. What's a failure experience with your business? How did you deal with it and solve it? That's a really good question. Um, so there's a lot of things that I didn't even consider like right off the bat. For example, when I have storytellers or when I have people that are willing to be in my photo shoots and feature their stories with the hijabs, I didn't even think about first getting like a consent form ready or the legalities of the situation. I was at first it was more of my family and friends that I was featuring, and then when people were interested and they wanted to feature their own stories, I had to learn the hard way that some people could just change their minds and be like, oh, we don't want to feature our story anymore, and then my entire collection that I had created with 8 stories, it did definitely impact because now I had to take their story down. I had to take their picture down. It was a big thing for my business to do that because this person requested it. So definitely creating, now I have an entire forum that it's like, please read and accept what you are about to do, and all the rights and responsibilities of or all the rights and privileges to your work is going to be given to my business. So thinking about like the different perspectives and how to bring in those kinds of things is really important, and it's only something you can learn with time. You can't learn this right away. Obviously, when you jump into a business, you're not fully prepared. You can't be exactly ready, but these experiences that happen along the way really make it so much better as you keep going along. And there will be so many times where you pivot and change what you're intending to do with your own business. So hopefully this video works here. I advertise mostly on, okay, so I don't think it works here, so I will open it. But on Instagram is where I started my advertising. Let me just open up YouTube 8. Sorry. I'm basically showing you a link to my pitch that actually won $5,000 at the University of Waterloo. And it really gave me that recognition in the community. And so maybe if you all can take a look at it and see the way that you're supposed to present your ideas, it will really help. Let me tell you a story about a girl named Ugbat Abdi. Born in Somalia, she spent the earlier years of her life living in a refugee camp in Kenya, and later, with the help of UNICEF, resettled with her family in Iowa when she was 9. Now, at 19 years old, Ugbat Abdi has become the first hijab-wearing model to be featured on the cover of American Vogue. Although her story is inspiring, it does raise a few questions. From the inception of Vogue in 1892, why has it taken 128 years for there to be representation of Muslim women who wear the headscarf in North America? Well, it's no secret that the prevalent stereotypes surrounding the hijab in the media as being oppressive or backwards has translated into the gap that Muslim women experience due to lack of representation and modest wear available to them in North America. This brings us to A Stories of Modesty. A Stories of Modesty is a hijab brand that combines fashion and storytelling by providing a platform for Muslim women to have their voices heard while catering to their modest fashion needs. This is why in every collection we launch 8 high-quality and affordable scarves ranging from $13 to $15 with a diverse color and material palette. And that's not all. Each scarf in the collection comes with a unique story voluntarily written by a Muslim woman outlining her hijab journey, all packaged together in a gift-like box. In a recent survey we conducted of over 160 Muslim women living in the GTA, 21% indicated that they didn't know of any exclusive hijab retailers in the area, whereas 40% said that they maybe knew of 1 or 2. However, there are a lot of competitors in the international e-commerce space, but even then, none of these options offer the storytelling aspect and are priced higher for similar or lower quality of scarves. In 2019, the North American scarf segment amounted to $500 million, and this is our immediate addressable market. But as we continue to grow our company, we intend to tap into the women's apparel market as well. And our strategy to do so is by partnering with social media influencers who can promote our products to their massive following, and of course, increase the number of stories featured on our own page, which gives us indirect referrals and word-of-mouth marketing. Since this past November, the venture has seen some great initial success. With just 2 launches, we have sold 350 scarves, accumulating $5,000 in revenue globally, of which 33% comes from returning customers. In fact, we've received some great feedback and appreciation regarding our stories from our customers as well. We intend to use the $5,000 to launch our third collection, set up a website, and onboard a team, which currently consists of myself, a fourth-year accounting and finance student. I've been wearing the hijab for over 12 years and have a great passion for entrepreneurship and a drive to help those in my community through creativity. 8 Stories of Modesty has a vision, a society without Islamophobia. And these stories are helping to build a community by bringing comfort to those who wear or are looking into wearing the headscarf and allowing others to relate to Muslim women as everyday people, while of course looking great. After all, this is what fashion storytelling is all about. Okay, so that was just a little bit of that. That was my pitch, and that's what sort of I won this competition. It was part of Concept 5K, and it was a really great way for me to get more of recognition.
Does sneeze mean wearing skirts 4 inches below your knee?
Sorry.
What's wrong with wearing pajama pants at night?
All right, technical difficulties. Hold on. All right, so now if you're looking to pitch and if you're looking to put your ideas together, then this is sort of where I started. It was more about focusing on my customer base and conducting surveys and interviews and really looking at what they needed and what they sort of thought about the ideas that I was presenting to them. Right. So that's where I, again, use social media to my advantage. I reached out to people who fit the description of my target market. I reached out to a lot of even strangers that I didn't even know. And I was like, hey, do you mind like taking a second out of your day to do this? So you want to start with that. You want to start with looking into your market and presenting them your idea. Then you want to formulate your problem, frame what it is, the size and the urgency, who it's affecting, how many people it's affecting. And you want to start with a story because you want people to follow along with what you're presenting. And the only way that they can do that is if you sort of have it in this frame of a storytelling aspect. Then your solution right after the problem, right? You want to focus 30, 45 seconds on that and then give your solution why what you're doing will help this combat this problem and what makes it unique. Include your revenue model and think like your audience. So for example, with my pitch, it wasn't too hard to understand what I was doing, but more technical ideas that obviously do require a little bit more diving deep into what it is about. You want to focus on what your audience is like and how they would perceive your idea, because obviously not everyone is an engineer, can understand easily. And so then go back up your solution with the facts and the figures that you found here, like the target market. When you did that research, you want to back your solution with that as the next step. Then you talk about your competitors. How many are there and how is your solution better? You talk about the market opportunity. So for example, I talked about women's apparel and how that's the broader market that I'm trying to appeal to and get a piece of. And then the progress that my business has made so far. So you want to build up your credibility with that. Then you want to mention your team. Again, you want to show that there's capable individuals behind the idea, willing to put in work and effort and invest their time and the money that investors are potentially giving for the cause. And then you want to show them where you can allocate the prize money. And then conclusion is the most important thing, because a lot of times people can maybe doze off within the presentation, but the very endings, people sort of reel in their attention back. So you want to say 3 points to your audience that they will remember about your presentation, and it's probably like the most important part of your entire presentation because it leaves them with that impression. So again, some guiding principles: don't be too hard on yourself while presenting. Avoid memorizing a script. I did that once, and oh my goodness, it was so bad because I was so nervous, and it's hard on Zoom to see what everyone is thinking or feeling, or you can't really read the room. So I was so nervous that I forgot my script, but luckily I had a printout version and I started reading it because I was just too nervous. And it happens, right? If you don't prepare yourself in a way where it's like memorizing a script, it might end badly. So please try to understand what your business is offering and have that ready at the get-go. The slide deck should be clear and concise, maximum 3 points on a slide. The font should be over 20 and avoid including videos. Like today, I can't believe it didn't work. It was so sad. But you have a link, so you can access and see those videos yourself. But the focus on like the design of the slide is really important, because you don't want to put too much words or writing or paragraphs in your slides. because then the judge or whoever's looking at your work is going to be either trying to listen to you or trying to read your slide. So you want to sort of have a place where it's like meeting in the middle. And then of course, time yourself and practice, practice, practice. That's the only way you'll get better at it. And so I want to end off, there's no downside to doing a startup. And Larry Smith said this, he's a professor at the University of Waterloo. And it is so important because, the people you meet, the things you learn, the networks you make, the experience and projects, they contextualize how you're going to move forward with your business. And again, even if it's not something you intend to do, just doing it will teach you so much. And so, yeah, here's my contact information. If you ever want to reach out or email me, I will answer and I will be more than willing to have a conversation with you. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, guys. We'll leave a couple minutes here for some questions. So first off, I saw a question from Priya, who said, do you have any final tips for first-time entrepreneurs?
I would say final tip is start with what you enjoy most, because when you do that, you're putting in a lot of work that you don't even realize that you're doing because you're having fun, you're enjoying it, it's a good time. And then when you hit that first challenge or the first hurdle or the second hurdle, and then you have a reason not to quit because you have all this foundation that you've created just by doing something you enjoy. So I would say that to any new entrepreneur.
Awesome. So another question is from Rashina. Sorry if I said that wrong. How are the scarves made? Do you individually make them, or do you have some sort of contract signed with a factory?
Yes, so I do have a supplier, and that was actually done through like talking to a bunch of people, seeing where I can get access to these contacts. So you have to network to do that, and so I do have a supplier that sends me the hijabs, and then I brand them, and of course I create the stories on my own, and that's sort of done on my part.
Awesome.
And
We
then
have
there's
good questions here. Yeah, go ahead, Tamania.
yeah, so I'll just yeah, what kinds of things made you uncomfortable? Did you seek out? I was very hesitant in starting my business because I'm like, I want to focus on my academics. I want to make that the priority. Will this distract me? Will I have enough time to work on it? And so what I did to combat that, and it was uncomfortable in the beginning because I'm like, I don't know how my idea will be perceived by people. I don't know if they will support it or just the concept of not of wasting my time and efforts and money. That was a big thing for me. But when I started, for example, using my electives to take courses that aligned with what I was working on in my business, so it was like I was working on my business through the electives, and then I was doing my coursework, and I was having, 5 courses, and I was finishing them up at the same time. So it was really managing my time to be able to do that. And also, I do have very uncomfortable conversations with a lot of people. I like to talk to people. I like to see, their experiences and learn from them. And so if I'm in a bus, then I would approach you and engage in conversation. Out of curiosity. Yeah, sorry.
Another great question is, what was the most difficult part of your career so far?
It was so I was in accounting and finance, right? And so really finding what I wanted to do with that knowledge and information, that was the hardest part because I could have gone into accounting, I could have gone into finance jobs. There's very great resources, and if that's what you want to do at Waterloo, I would definitely recommend this program for that. But for me, I was more rooted in entrepreneurial side of things, and I didn't really find my place in the 9 to 5s. And those are what co-op experiences are for, right? Working and finding out what you want to do, and versus like what you don't really see yourself doing. And so that's sort of the experience that I brought forward with my co-ops, with getting that work experience. And then I realized that, maybe for me, I want way more autonomy. I like startup culture, so maybe I should work in a startup, and that's sort of how I've pivoted in my own career.
Awesome. So we will do one more question here from Neele, who asks, how long did it take you to get your first customers? So this can be even related to how long does it take for a business to grow usually, especially when starting up.
Yeah, a lot of mine, it was just trying to grow the business organically. Um, but you'll find that your family and your friends are your number one supporters. They are the ones who will be initially helping you out. They will be the ones supporting your ideas. So when I first started, it was a lot of my friends, they loved the idea and they wanted to support me. So they purchased from me. It happened right away. And then when they, for example, left reviews or try to, or they promoted my business word of mouth. That's how I gained way a lot more customers in that sense. And then just trying to grow your platform and being consistent with the content that you bring, that's also very important. The consistency matters a lot, because people, why should they stay interested in your idea? You have to give them a reason to stay interested. And my first customer was honestly, I'm very lucky because it didn't take that long to get my first customer. But of course, there's a lot of other people that do take a lot of time in planning and launching. It took me about a month to plan and launch everything, but sometimes it takes longer. So every business is different, and every experience will probably be a bit different as well.
Okay, awesome. Great questions, guys. We can do one more here because I saw a few questions on investing. So, do you have investors and how did you attain these investors?
So, for example, when I won the $5,000, it was technically me pitching to investors that were willing to give the $5,000 as a grant. There are other competitions that you should look out for. For example, there's problem pitch competitions, and even in your own university or even in your own school, whatever competitions there are, take part in them, even if you're scared. You know, that's probably the most uncomfortable thing you can do is take part in these competitions, put yourself out there, get feedback, and all of that. So that's sort of that was the very first time I had experience with being funded as a business. It was a big step, and and the plans that I made to use that funding, I ended up doing everything that I wanted to do, and that was really good. um, of course, moving forward, now I have to first form a team to be able to consider more investing from investors. So right now, currently, that's where I'm at. But yeah, thank you for your question.
Okay, awesome questions. We're gonna end the presentation here. I want to thank Tamania for her great work throughout these last 51 minutes. Just for your guys' information, if you want to view Tamania's presentation, view some of the videos, especially the one that didn't work, I put the link in the chat here, so you can just click that and view all her work. Right after this workshop, there is another workshop and the last one of the day. There will only be one at 2 today, which is Teams 101, organizing and encouraging your team. And that is with Rachel and Victoria. So hopefully we see you guys there, and hopefully you enjoyed Tamania's great presentation. And we'll see you around. Great work, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Great job, Tamania. I will see you later.
All right.